Hi there, I'm Wynn from Get Life Flowin'. I'm a light worker, and today I wanted to share this video with you to be vulnerable, for one thing, to tell you that I've been having a lot of trouble coping with anxiety, and I know that I'm not alone. I was born a real sensitive, anxious type, and over the years with big traumas and smaller traumas, injuries and so on, as well as, not to mention the last couple of years of a pandemic, I've been finding that the anxiety levels have been harder and harder to cope with. So I've been doing a deep dive into a variety of things that will help me cope with the trauma, the stress, and the anxiety. So I thought I would share with you today what I've been doing, and hopefully it will help you as well. And I want you to stay tuned to the end, because the most important thing is at the end. So anyway, first off, what I find really important is to allow myself to express the emotions. As human beings, we have emotions, and emotions are energy in motion. So if we don't allow them to flow through us, it gets stuck in our body. It gets lodged in our body as illnesses and pain and all kinds of things. So what I tend to do is I tell myself the truth. So if I'm feeling scared, angry, anxious, overwhelmed, I've come to understand that it's really important to be honest with myself and not to kind of push them away, to ignore them, to distract myself, because our bodies have intelligence and our higher selves know the truth. So if we're running around lying to ourselves and putting on this false happy positivity, our body senses that we're lying, that there's a conflict here. Something isn't congruent, and it can make us ill. When I first started studying hypnosis, one of the affirmations or suggestions that we were given was, every day, in every way, I'm feeling better and better. Well, I can't tell you how many times I have said that over and over to myself, and I thought at one point, I don't freaking feel like I'm getting any better. And so then after doing this deep dive and understanding this, it's like, now that's making sense. So what I have to do is I've learned to stop blocking the fears and to turn towards the anxiety rather than running from it, because the anxiety is there to teach me something. So I have to learn to sit and be in the fear and the anxiety. And it usually lasts for only about 10 to 20 seconds. But doing so allows for a regulation of my nervous system. And while doing that, I have to avoid distractions. I mean, let's face it, we're all great with doing distractions. I know I'm really good at being distracted with keeping busy. But then there's also shopping, being on social media, drinking, food, and all kinds of things. So when you're with the anxiety, when I'm sitting in the anxiety, I don't sit there counting. It's like, okay, I'm going to be here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, wait a minute, it's gone. That's because I've pressed it down. I also try to refrain from going into, okay, I know I was taught in yoga to deep belly breathe. That's going to help, right? That's going to help. And again, it's not allowing the process to move through me, to be expressed. So again, it's going to short circuit the process, and there it goes, diving back into the body again. So just be with the breath, and no matter what it is in that state of anxiety. Excuse me. So when I'm feeling anxious or depressed, I also know that feelings like fear and worry and sadness come along with it, and those tend to be related to issues. So it might be, I'm afraid I'm not going to get that job, or I'm feeling hopeless because I'm not feeling well. So when I'm feeling the fear, I sit and I ask myself, what specifically am I afraid of? What specifically am I feeling? So once I've identified the feeling and what it's connected to, then I ask myself, so what can I do about it? that one can be a little bit challenging sometimes, but just what can I do with it? What can I do about it? And it's also important to note that sometimes the fears and anxieties that we're experiencing, and I know this to be true for myself, don't necessarily always belong to us, because they could be coming through the ancestral line. So, for example, right now, if you're feeling really traumatized by what's going on with the war in Ukraine, it could be stirring up ancestral memories and fears and trauma of living through war. So trauma awareness and going through the ancestral clearing can really be helpful in breaking that cycle. And I know that it helped me with releasing the anxiety around being the good girl. That's in another story. So once we are being with the emotions, once we are allowing ourselves to express the emotion, we don't want to dwell there. Dwell as in living in it. So we acknowledge, and then what I tend to do is I use affirmations like, okay, it's actually safe for me to feel anxious once in a while. It's safe for me to feel angry once in a while. It's safe for me to feel overwhelmed once in a while. Or it's safe for me to feel exhausted from time to time. Now notice that it's once in a while or time to time. So again, you're not dwelling in it. And that allows for spaciousness and permission to feel the feelings, so I don't get caught up in the guilt and I don't get stuck in the feelings. So I tune into my body, I center in after I've acknowledged that it's safe for me to feel whatever once in a while. Then I slip into the mantra, in this moment, right here, right now, I'm safe. In this moment, right here, right now, just in this moment, I'm resourced. Right here, right now, in this moment, I'm connected. I'm connected to myself. I'm connected to spirit. I'm connected to those I love. So another strategy that I use is when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I ask myself, how much smaller can I make my responsibilities? Do I really need to do that right now? How much smaller can I make my communications? Do I really need to respond to that text right now? No, it can wait. How much smaller can I make my commitment to work? How can I step back? How much smaller can I make it so I can feel a little bit more comfortable, have more spaciousness? Maybe I need to sit in a nice quiet room in the dark with my eyes closed, or in nature under a tree. I love hugging trees. Another thing that I find helpful for overwhelm is called the 5 hats, the 5 thinking hats. So 5. I look around and I describe 5 things I see. So right now I see a black and white garbage can with white rectangles on it. I see my antique secretary filled with books. I see a clock with brass hands and the second hand ticking away. I see a winter painting that my mother did when she was in her residence. I see some white and brown feathers with stripes on them, and they're in a vase. Then I look around or think about 5 things. I've done the 5. Then it's 4. I think about 4 things I can feel. So right now I can feel my bottom sitting on the cushion. I can feel the weight of the bracelets on my wrist. I can feel my breath coming in and out of my body. I can feel the pressure of the glasses on my nose. Then it's 3 things I can hear. I can hear a fan running off in the distance. I can hear the clock ticking. I can hear a car driving by outside. 2 things I can smell. I can smell the scent of the essential oils that I've got on. I can smell the wool in the carpet that I'm sitting on. And then I come up with one good thing that I can think about myself, such as, I'm a kind and generous person. So those are kind of strategies that I do when I'm feeling overwhelmed to kind of bring me back into the moment. Another thing that any of us can do is be vulnerable enough to share with someone how I'm feeling. So if I'm feeling anxious, I can pick up the phone, I can text someone and say, look, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, I'm feeling anxious, I need some support right now. And I want to make this note that what's really important, if someone does that, if they have the vulnerability to reach out to share, it's really important for us to avoid giving advice. We just want to be that supportive shoulder and that really compassionate ear for them to listen with or listen to. Okay, and then there is meditation. Now, I was trained in meditation in 2010. I've been using it for a long time, but in the work that I've been doing lately, I've discovered that I've been using meditation as escapism. I'd be sitting there imagining myself in a lovely green field with flowers blowing in the breeze and the sound of birds, and it just takes me away from all the anxiety I'm feeling, which is great, right? Yeah, no, not necessarily. So what I realized is I actually need to use the meditation, the mindfulness, to sit and feel, tapping in. Okay, how's my breath right now? Oh, wait a minute, it's way up here and my shoulders are way up around my ears. Okay, so I'm acknowledging my breath is shallow, my shoulders are tense. So it's it's exploring and feeling the feelings. And then I mentioned that I was going to save the best for last. What I've really become aware of is how important the body is in dealing with anxiety. We can do all of the talk therapy we want. We can do all the logical stuff. I can try this strategy, I can try that strategy, I can use my tapping, I can meditate, I can distract myself with keeping busy. But connecting with the physical body is the most important thing. So I'm going to share with you some of the go-tos that I've really discovered that I love. One of the things is just scratching our foreheads. And if you think about it, how many times do we tend to do that naturally? It's like, just instinctively we do that. And when we do that, it actually activates the 5th cranial nerve. We can hum a song. I like to and when we're doing that humming, that vibration in the throat activates the 7th cranial nerve. I've also discovered a technique where you put your hand on the back of the skull. So what I quite often do is I combine a few things. I put my hand on my forehead, my other hand on the back of my skull so I can feel the bones at the base of my skull. And then I kind of move my hand around. And while I'm doing that, I look up to the right. And doing this is actually going to help tone the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is responsible for that fight, flight, and freeze response. So I'm looking up to the right, and as I'm massaging my forehead, I'm going to deeply inhale, exhale with an Om. Om. for me, right now, that's good. But I might have to do it several times on different occasions, depending on what's going on. Because I get this feeling of just sinking into my body. Or I might need to swallow or yawn. And then it's looking up to the left. And the same thing. Hard look up to the left. Massage the forehead, circle movements. Feel the pressure on the back of the skull. Inhale. This side needs another one. There we go. Yeah. Oh, that feels better. So that has become one of my go-to exercises to help really bring myself back into my body, to sedate to calm the vagus nerve, to help with the toning of the vagus nerve. I also like to hug myself, just feel my body, feel my hands on my shoulders, squeeze, and if you notice, I'm actually making myself smaller. I'm coming into my body. I'm feeling the pressure, that hug, that comfort, working my way down the hands, the arms, the pressure. Feel my hands. And in actuality, doing this helps sedate the fight, flight, or freeze meridian. And that runs from our temple, behind the ear, down the neck, across the top of the shoulder, down the arm, and into the hand in the space between the baby finger and the ring finger. So when you're doing that, you're slowing down the energy. Typically it runs this way, but when we're in a fight, flight, and freeze response, it's going hyper fast, like rapids, whitewater rapids. So we want to calm it down by going in the opposite direction. So that's when you're doing this, you're just slowing down that meridian, slowing down, stopping and breaking that fight, flight, and freeze response. So those are a couple of the go-tos. If you would like to connect and learn some more of the strategies that I'm using, I would love to share to help support you move through your journey. I would also love to hear you share what you're doing and what works for you. Last but not least, one of my favorites as well is going into child pose. So on my knees and curling right up nice and small, tucking into my belly, putting my forehead down, and just being here with the breath, feeling the pressure of my knees on my belly, the breath coming out into the sides and the back. And I think I'm just going to hang out here for a while.